Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rock My Bean. I'm by myself right now. Mark is going to join us soon, but in this episode of Rock My Bean, this whole Rock My Bean show that we're doing is ultimately about Mark and being an autistic young man who was also a drummer musician. Okay, and that he had talent and he's being trained and taught. This is really about him and others like him. Okay, this show is really about those people who have special needs but still have the abilities and talent that the rest of us may have, and the desires and the goals that we have. It's harder for them, it's more complicated for them, it can be very difficult for their parents and their caregivers, people that take care of them, their guardians, their siblings or whatever. And it's difficult for them too, because life is different when you're when you're neurodiverse, as they say. And everybody who's on that spectrum is different than other people, and there's different combinations. If you've been around it, you know it's a spectrum, okay? And some people are high functioning, some people are low functioning, and then there's everybody in between. Now, Mark is somewhere in between. He's sort of in the middle a little bit. He's high in some areas, low in some areas, and average in others. Now, Mark, as a child, he'd line up, okay, and then rattle, spin, and bump his toys together while he was not messing with the line. Okay, it appeared to us that as having a sense of order in the middle of attempting sound mixing. This is what he was doing. Okay, he was about 5 years old when he first sat down to a drum kit. We were at a friend's house for a dinner party, and they had a drum kit there. And he gravitated over to it and started to play on his own, without even asking, just started playing. And not just to hit, folks, but to play along to the music that was playing in the background. So it wasn't just, I want to hit something. A lot of little boys and kids want to hit drums because it's tactile, it's like hitting, and boys especially want to hit things. But then when they get to a certain point, they don't want to do it because they're not really into the music. They just want to hit it, and they stop by a certain age. But Mark wanted to play the music, okay? And all his life, so far, Mark has enjoyed a great sensitivity to sound and motion and people. He's very personable, okay? And we would like to see him develop his drumming talents even further, and in university or college or some higher educational thing, in ways that will benefit society and benefit himself and give his life some meaning and some purpose besides just existing. And the problem with a lot of lower functioning people on the spectrum is it's hard to find a life for them. It's hard where they can find a place. Sometimes they're really good at focusing in on a subject and zooming in, and they're sort of savants at computers and figuring things out, and they're useful. But there's others that don't have that ability. They can't just sit in one place forever and focus. They can be distracted easily, and Mark is one of those that he can go from this to this to this. He's getting better at concentrating on what he's doing, but he doesn't want to just sit in one place all day, so that makes it a little more difficult. He has a different personality. A lot of people on the spectrum seem to have a problem vocalizing, communicating. They don't talk a lot. They're very quiet. They're very introverted. Mark is the opposite. He's incredibly extroverted, loves talking to people, and loves people, and he just loves people. He's not an introvert. And sometimes he won't stop talking, or he talks too loud, or he talks too much. He says the wrong thing at the wrong time. This is all part of the understanding the social skills, which I think is one of the harder things for people on the spectrum to handle. But when it comes to drums and music, Mark loves music. Now, he likes music with a beat, like this. So when he was in Poland, which is where he spent a lot of his time, he got to listen to European disco music. And I am no fan myself, but it's popular over there with a certain set of the population, and it appealed to his desire for a beat and for excitement and glitter and jumping around and everything, and he really got into it, and he still likes it. I believe as time goes on, he will begin to lose his interest in it, like we all do. When I was in my early teen years, I liked pop music off the radio. I didn't listen to Zeppelin or any progressive rock. I wanted to hear pop music, okay? And I even listened to classical music and marching music, okay? Now, I never really got tired of listening to those things, but as I got older, I wanted to hear more complex music, more moody music, more music that was interesting, talked about life, that And as a drummer, especially, I wanted a challenging drum part to listen to play. So I got into progressive rock. Well, Mark likes rock music, the little bit that he knows, and he's learning more and more because he doesn't come from my generation. In this generation, rock music really is on the fringes out there. And I don't know what they're listening to today. It's some kind of electronic clicking sounds, okay? And somebody's rapping over it. I don't consider that to be music, but that's me maybe. Clearly, I'm in the minority among the millennials and the Gen Zs, but there's a lot of people in those generations that like the classic rock, and that's what they listen to. So I'm here for you in that regard, and Mark is one of you. He likes that music, and he likes playing drums to it, okay? And so we've been going through the catalog of songs that help him improve his skills a little by little. For the last 2 years, he's been taking lessons from me. Before that, he wasn't really teachable, but 2 years. He's been beat on the drums for 5. He didn't really play until the last 2 years. And I give him a lesson every single day except Saturday and Sunday, I believe. Sometimes Friday. And his skills have just gone whoosh, like this. And there's some things that he has a hard time with. If you're a drummer, you'll understand. He has a hard time reacting quickly, like going from here to doing something really quick. He needs a little more time, and he sometimes hesitates. Now, that can be a part of just not being comfortable with the drums or familiar. We were playing with electric drums for 2 years because I could control the volume and blend it with the music. But now we've gone back to the acoustic set because it's time to get the feel for an acoustic drum set, hitting it, touching it, and reaching out for cymbals and stuff. It's a different kind of feel. And he's used to doing it a couple of years ago, but he hasn't done it in a while. And now we're getting back to it, and he's playing much more complex music, he's hearing things now that drummers are doing, and he's saying, ooh, he's doing this. I think I want to try to do that. He'll just try to do it, which is exactly what I want him to do. And so that's what I want. I want him to hear the drum part and try to reproduce it. And not just play what he thinks he can play, but say, I want to try to do that. And he's doing it. All my students, when I see that happening, I know that we're in the right place. Excuse me. And so anyway, we're going to be asking Mark a series of questions here, giving him an interview. You're going to get a chance to hear from Mark himself what it's like to be an autistic drummer and how he feels about things. Because, folks, there's a lot of people out there. They say, was it 1 in 10 Americans are somewhere on the spectrum? That's an incredible number. That's an incredible number, folks. That means a lot of them, maybe it's 1 in 40, but I have to get the numbers right. I think it's 1 in 10. But nevertheless, that's a lot of people. And the numbers are increasing. They're not going down or leveling out. The numbers are increasing. So we're getting more and more autistic people in this country and in the world. And societies had better come to grips with it because it's not going away. And we'd better find ways to educate and to train these people and to get them to work in our society, or we're going to be saddled with a large population of people who have nowhere to go and nothing to do. And they're not going to fit in. So this is important. What I'm doing here is helping my son have a career and have a future and do what he's good at. But beyond that, drumming actually helps cognitive abilities. That is a proven fact. So if you've got a son or daughter who is on the spectrum, you might want to look into drum therapy because it is real. It does help with the wiring and like other things do, but drumming is one of those things. And I just highly recommend getting your son or daughter into drumming or percussion of some kind. If they have any kind of aptitude for it, even if they're not really skilled or super interested, it can still help them. It definitely is helping Mark. And so we're going to talk to Mark here, ask him some questions, and you're going to find out, sometimes I have to help him along, provide the answers, because his understanding of English is a little, it's not really where it should be, but he can still communicate. And we're going to get some ideas of what it's like to be Mark, to be an autistic young man playing drums. And you're going to find out for yourself. So here we go with the interview.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
this
everybody.
is Rock My Bean, and I am Mark.
And I am John. And this is the actual interview with Mark. We're going to sit here with Mark and ask him some questions about what it's like to be a drummer.
Yep.
And playing drumming, especially a drummer on the autistic spectrum. We're going to get some insight into what it's like for Mark and probably for a lot of other young people that are like him that are learning drums and perhaps have some sort of handicap that makes things a little different. So we're going to start out asking Mark some interesting questions and see what he has to has to offer.
Yep, and make sure to buy some supplies from Rock My Bean.
We're going to be putting some merchandise up eventually here, and we're also going to be selling something else that you're going to be very interested in, and that will help support the autistic research and working with Mark. So here we go with the first questions.
Okay.
And what I want to ask you, Mark, and let me move this little screen aside here because it's blocking my view. What do you like about drumming?
Well, drumming is really attractive. I basically choose drums because drums are really energetic and attractive, and they're really cool. You know, hitting the cymbals, hitting the drums, and when I was little, I would like to. I really like banging on stuff, you know, and lots of other stuff. And my favorite drum, my first drum set was Box, you know.
Sure, yeah, I
my
understand that.
favorite first drum set was Box, and then.
Okay.
I went for 5 years, which is I wasted in Poland, and then I came here and just start my career.
Cool. So how does drumming make you feel when you play drums?
You know, drums make me feel so happy, so energetic.
Yeah.
So kind of like a very like a strong reaction to this, you know, like I was starting playing, for example, Steven Adler, the song like Paradise City and Welcome to the Jungle. I realized that drumming is just so much activity in it.
Oh, so the physical activity
Yes,
is what you like?
physical activity, and sometimes really relaxing we playing blues or jazz.
You know, you're when you were a very, very small boy, and I told the audience this, you went to a party and they had music playing.
Yeah.
And you saw a drum set and you sat down and started playing. But you didn't just do it to hit the drums. You wanted to play along with the music.
Yeah.
And that told your mom, hey, he likes music. He hears the music and he wants to play with the music. 'Cause,
That's right.
A lot of really young kids, they just like it, see a drum set and they want to hit on it. But they don't really want to play with the music. They just want to bang on a drum. But you actually wanted to play with the music.
Yes.
And you can tell Mark he loves music and he can actually play it. Okay. Let me ask you this question. Are you comfortable being behind the drum kit? Do you feel comfortable there, or is it still kind of
You know what?
hard sometimes?
You know what? It depends on the songs what we have in the recital.
That's
because
understandable, yeah.
Because sometimes I'm getting very really stressed out and
Yeah.
frustrated. What are we doing? Where is the fill? And you know, and where's the transition? And you are off. And
Not always. Most of the time you're on. But sometimes you're off. Sometimes you're off.
Yeah,
But most of the time you're not.
Yeah, most of the time I'm on, but sometimes I'm pretty off the beat. So
Well, that's only because you're learning a song. When you're learning a song, obviously you don't know. See, I know a lot of these songs by heart, but Mark's learning them for the first time.
and that
So-
explains.
Exactly. And so when you don't know something really well, it's not as easy. So it takes time for him to learn these songs, but he learns them pretty quick. And when he says he's off, it's about being on the beat.
Yeah.
Doing your fills on the right count, on the right beat in a measure. So
Yes.
that's where he has a problem, but not for long. Once he gets it, he sticks with it, and he's usually pretty good. So kudos to you, Mark. You're a fast learner in that regard.
Yeah.
When was the first time you remember sitting down at a drum kit? I told you folks when we saw you as a little kid, but when do you remember first? Being behind a drum set.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. The first drum kit, the first time I sat on the drums, there was some kind of those random people in Poland
Okay.
with two children. I don't know who are those people. They had those two drum sets, and I just sat down and
Was that the same thing we're talking about? That
Yeah.
party? Okay, so you remember the same party.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
very good. In the future, do you see yourself in playing for a band or in a church or in a studio or maybe
You-
all of them?
You know what? That's a very that's a very good question. Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk
So I am very, very going through school right now, and I cannot say am I gonna participate in some kind of a band. Some kind of a band because you have to play so good to be in the band.
Well, yeah, but do you see yourself in the future being in one?
Of course.
After when school's
Yeah.
over with, or
Yeah.
And I know that someone in the local community saw him playing, who's a pastor of a little church, and he said, "Man, Mark can really play, and maybe he'll get a chance to even play for the church services." So that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Now I know in the school he's in a post high school classes, which goes 2 years beyond high
Yeah,
school.
I'm going to
Transition. They call
Yeah,
it.
I'm going to transition class, and I have lots of friends at school, and I'm going to the transition class, which involves 5 teachers and 11 kids with random problems.
Well,
but
that's true. But what about the drumming now? Because I want to talk about your drumming
Oh
opportunity.
yeah, and I'm going to my teacher. His name is Mr. Luke.
Mr. Wyndham.
Mr. Wyndham.
Yes, and he is your teacher.
And he is my teacher from percussion and choir.
Okay, and last year, Mark was in a percussion class, but because he hasn't learned notes, because he didn't start taking music education till he was able to be taught, and which means he was about 20 or 19 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
So all those early years of grade school and stuff, he didn't learn anything. Where a lot of kids are already learning drums like me from 10 years old and up. So a lot of the kids in band in the school have learned to read music notes, and Mark did not learn that. He didn't have the benefit of that. And he was in Poland at the time. So he's got a late start, and I know it's difficult for him to try to pick up some of these notes. And it's almost too late in many respects for him to be able to pick it up quickly and get into band. So what the school is going to do is but Mark is good at the drum set because he can feel the drums. He doesn't need
Yes,
notes.
I can feel the drums. The feeling, coming back to this question,
Yeah.
feeling of the drums is very, very hard to do because you just sitting down and you don't know where are you, and those plates and those cymbals are around you, so you are kind of claustrophobic in there.
Yeah, if you're not comfortable with it, it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
But as far as he does have a good feel for playing the drums. And so he played an electric set for two years. So the teacher this year is going to got him an electric set for him to play while the marching band is out practicing. He's going to be inside playing his drum set on the electric set. And not only that, but they're going to do maybe a couple other things. For National Autism Day, they're going to let him play the drums for the school. And there's also a talent show, right? And then for the basketball games, they're going to have sometimes have a drum off where Mark might be able to participate in the drum off for the whole school after the
Amazing.
in the time off of the basketball, the halftime of the basketball
Yeah.
games. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Mark's getting opportunities to play in front of other people, which is really important as a drummer and an entertainer.
Yeah.
And show his skills to everybody. And I know my daughter works in the cafeteria, and the other cafeteria ladies have seen his drumming and are like, "Wow, Mark's good. Mark can play drums."
Yeah,
So-
but you know what? But you know, and sometimes people are saying you can practice drums, but to perform it, that
Yeah.
is,
that's a little different story.
Yeah, that is a little different
Yeah,
story.
It can make you nervous, but Mark does not get nervous like I got nervous.
Like, ooh.
Yeah, he likes playing in front of people, and the more
Yeah.
they clap and dance and enjoy, he just goes crazy. He gets into it. He really feeds on that the audience participation.
Yeah, but I'm not like Keith Moon, like.
No, I'm not taking our drums around. Thank goodness. I'm glad of that, Mark. I'm really glad of that. All right, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Okay, you are on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah.
Does it seem to make it different or difficult for you as a drummer? Do you even notice anything, any difficulty? Or difference?
You know what? As I am autistic, but in my defense, the being a drummer is a kind of like a, super activity,
Like a therapy?
like a therapy
Yes.
that you could choose, but by doing something in the free time.
Okay.
That's how I can explain it.
Right. Well, I mean, I can understand that. If you're the one with the handicap, it's hard to know what it is to be like without
Handicap.
it. To be without it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't have it, then you know the difference. But if you have it, you don't know the difference. So I understand that. But so that's kind of a hard question to answer. Does it matter to you as a drummer if you're not good at reading music yet? Does it matter to you, do you think? Or you have a problem with that? Or
You know what? I have very big problems with reading music because instead of we had a warm up with those kinds of notes. I was like had a war with that.
It was a war. Yeah, it
And
was
the
a war.
book just won, so I'm not gonna.
The book won. So we decided, you know what? He's playing really good on the drums. He understands the rhythm and the groove. And you know what? A lot of guys, people can play notes, but they can't put any feeling behind it. And Mark isn't going to be that. He's going to be able to put feeling behind it because he feels the music, and I can tell it's in his blood. He's got it, and it's in your blood. And so all the notes are just technicalities. And some of the greatest drummers in the world couldn't read notes, so it's not like that's a problem.
Yeah.
If you want to be in a drum line, or if you want to be an orchestra, or you want to be in a marching band, then you need to know how to read notes.
Yes,
But-
but I'm not gonna be like this.
And you know what? I stopped reading notes once I got out of school and was in the marching band. I never read notes after that. I had to go back, and when I was going to teach them, I had to go back and relearn it myself because it's been so long. So you can see it. It's kind of like math. There's only certain math you need, and a lot of it you just don't. And drumming notes are kind of like that. Unless
Hey,
you're going to be in a
why are we so dark?
Well, yeah, somehow the lighting, there's something going on with the camera. But anyway, the point is that you don't really, the notes are not interfering with your drum playing, not being able to learn notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. As a whole, how do you see the drum kit? When you look at this drum set, do you see it as a whole instrument or separate little instruments like cymbal, snare, or do you like to play it as a whole instrument?
I would like. That's a good question. You know what? I would like play the whole instrument.
Yeah.
But in those percussion stores, there are like randomly very very high prices.
Sure.
And you know what? It's a kind of very hard that you can choose the drum set because it depends of the company and of the style of drums. For example, you have Cheyenne,
Zildjian cymbals, yeah.
the zillion symbols of Cheyenne, and
Zildjian, yep. And yeah, Tama. Right.
And you have the Tama drum, the bass drum, and you have Roland. So that is kind of it makes them like cabbage with the onion.
Okay. So I guess I'm asking you is not about the make of the drums.
Yeah.
But when you play the drums, do you think about them all as part of a single instrument and you're just playing, or do you think about the snare drum and I got to play this drum right and I got to play this drum right?
You know what?
Does that mean anything to you? Because
No,
here's
it's
the-
not. It
Here's the
doesn't.
reason I ask this is because there's two schools of thought in drumming, and some of the best drummers were drummers that thought of the whole instrument as an organic whole. It wasn't like, oh, here's the snare drum you got to get good at, and the hi-hat you got to know, and the floor tom, the bass drum. But they work as an organic whole. It's all one instrument. Kind of like, and I use this illustration like a saxophone, and you got all the keys on there. Now, the saxophone's one instrument, but it's got different keys for different sounds.
Yeah.
So I look at the drum set as one instrument like the saxophone, and each drum and each cymbal is a separate note or a separate key.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of think of the drum set. All the best drummers, I think, did that. And that's how I teach it. And I just wondered if that's how Mark sees the drum set, or if he was taught classically like I was. You think of the drum set, you got to get good at the snare,
Yeah.
learn all your rudiments, and then learn the hi-hat and the bass drum and play a 4 on the floor, and now you work your other drums.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you learned, and that's how I learned. But as I played more and more, I began to realize that that's not a good way to approach playing the drum set. And I just wondered, for you, when you're playing all your fills and stuff, are you thinking of, I got to be good at the snare and then good at this drum? Or are you thinking, I just want to play it all?
I just want to play it all.
Well, there you go. So you're kind of like an organic drummer.
Yeah.
And you play, I think, how you feel, not how you think.
Yeah.
And that's how I am. And that's another thing, too. There are two kinds of drummers. There's thinking drummers and feeling drummers. And there's been really good thinking drummers like Neil Peart, and there's been really good feeling drummers like, say, John Bonham. He thinks, too. But there's other drummers, too, that are just great at feeling. A lot of them are jazz players. They play more complex songs because they can feel the groove, and the technicality is not as important to them as the feeling of the drum part.
Yes.
So, well, I think that's all the questions I've got for Mark. Thanks for participating in this rather candid interview. And how do you like? I want to thank our audience for joining us on this. Mark, thank your audience for
Thank you
being here.
Thank you for being here, and I really appreciate I can be part of that company. So Rock My Bean, just like it says, rocks.
Exactly, it does. And we thank you for joining us, taking your time out to watch this. If you have any questions about autism and music and drumming,
Yep.
Leave some questions behind, some comments. Leave us a note, and we'll get back to you. Mark is an excellent example of someone on the spectrum who is actually improving and getting better and acquiring a skill, and he's got talent, and his handicap is not holding him back. And that's something very important, that we shouldn't limit people opportunities by the apparent handicaps that they're having. And Mark is going to play just as well, if not better, than many drummers. You just give him another 5 years, and you're going to see huge improvement in his playing.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a drummer. He's going to be a drummer. That's one thing he's going to do. So We're giving him a future and a hope. And I know other young people out there who have the same problem can also benefit from that. So we thank you for joining us. We hope this has been enlightening to you and a blessing to you. And as always, Rock My Bean is looking forward to watch our other videos. We're going to do some other interviews later and show Mark playing drums. And we're going to do some other drums too. We got some cool other drums we're going to play as well, like that box drum. We're going to try doing that. I'm going to show the people how to play that. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Oh, before I say that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And we'll see you again.
Ding.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.